The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Part 12.
But you have not slept yet, old man,
he said aloud.
It is half a day and a night, and now another day, and you have not slept. You must devise a way so that you sleep a little, if he is quiet and steady. If you do not sleep, you might become unclear in the head.
I am clear enough in the head, he thought. Too clear. I am as clear as the stars that are my brothers. Still, I must sleep. They sleep, and the moon and the sun sleep, and even the ocean sleeps sometimes on certain days, when there is no current and a flat calm. But remember to sleep, he thought. Make yourself do it, and devise some simple and sure way about the lines. Now go back and prepare the dolphin. It is too dangerous to rig the oars as a drag if you must sleep. I could go without sleeping, he told himself, but it would be too dangerous. He started to work his way back to the stern on his hands and knees, being careful not to jerk against the fish. He may be half asleep himself, he thought, but I do not want him to rest. He must pull until he dies. Back in the stern he turned, so that his left hand held the string of the line across his shoulders, and drew his knife from its sheath with his right hand. The stars were bright now, and he saw the dolphin clearly, and he pushed the blade of his knife into his head, and drew him out from under the stern. He put one of his feet on the fish, and slid him quickly from the vent up to the tip of his lower jaw. Then he put his knife down and gutted him with his right hand, scooping him clean and pulling the gills clear. He felt the more heavy and slippery in his hands, and he slit it open. There were 2 flying fish inside. They were fresh and hot, and he laid them side by side, and dropped the guts and the gills over the stern. They sank, leaving a trail of phosphorescence in the water. The dolphin was cold, and a leprous grey-white now in the starlight, and the old man skinned one side of him while he held his right foot on the fish's head. Then he turned him over and skinned the other side and cut its side off from the head down to the tail. He slid the carcass overboard and looked to see if there was any swirl in the water, but there was only the light of its slow descent. He turned then and placed the 2 flying fish inside the 2 fillets of fish, and putting his knife back in its sheath, he worked his way slowly back to the bow. His back was bent with the weight of the line across it, and he carried the fish in his right hand. Back in the bow, he laid the 2 fillets of fish out on the wood with the flying fish beside them. After that, he settled the line across his shoulders in a new place, and held it again with his left hand resting on the gunwale. Then he leaned over the side and watched the flying fish in the water, noting the speed of the water against his hand. His hand was phosphorescent from skinning the fish, and he watched the flow of the water against it. The flow was less strong, and as he rubbed the side of his hand against the planking of the skiff, particles of phosphorus floated off and drifted slowly astern.
He is tiring, or he is resting,
the old man said.
Now let me get through the eating of this dolphin, and get some rest and a little sleep.
Under the stars, and with the night colder all the time, he ate half of one of the dolphin fillets and one of the flying fish, gutted and with its head cut off.
What an excellent fish dolphin is to eat cooked,
he said.
and what a miserable fish roe! I will never go in a boat again without salt or limes.
If I had brains, I would have splashed water on the bow all day and drying. It would have made salt, he thought. But then I did not hook the dove in until almost sunset. Still, it was a lack of preparation. But I have chewed it all well, and I'm not nauseated. The sky was clouding over to the east, and one after another the stars he knew were gone. It looked now as though he were moving into a great canyon of clouds, and the wind had dropped.
There will be bad weather in 3 or 4 days,
he said.
But not tonight, and not tomorrow. Rig now to get some sleep, old man, while the fish is calm and steady.
He held the line tight in his right hand, and then pushed his thigh against his right hand as he leaned all his weight against the wood of the bow. Then he passed the line a little lower on his shoulders, and braced his left hand on it. My right hand can hold it as long as it is braced, he thought. If it relaxes in sleep, my left hand will wake me as the line goes out. It is hard on the right hand, but he is used to punishment. Even if I sleep 20 minutes or a half an hour, it is good. He lay forward, cramping himself against the line with all of his body, putting all his weight onto his right hand, and he was asleep. He did not dream of the lions, but instead of a vast school of porpoises that stretched for 8 or 10 miles, and it was in the time of their mating, and they would leap high into the air and return into the same hole they had made in the water when they leaped. Then he dreamed that he was in the village on his bed, and there was a norther, and he was very cold, and his right arm was asleep because his head had rested on it instead of a pillow. After that, he began to dream of the long yellow beach, and he saw the first of the lions come down onto it in the early dark. And then the other lions came, and he rested his chin on the wood of the bows, where the ship lay anchored, with the evening offshore breeze. And he waited to see if there would be more lions, and he was happy. The moon had been up for a long time, but he slept on, and the fish pulled on steadily as the boat moved into the tunnel of clouds. He woke with the jerk of his right fist coming up against his face, and the line burning out through his right hand. He had no feeling of his left hand, but he braked all he could with his right, and the line rushed out. Finally, his left hand found the line, and he leaned back against the line, and now it burnt his back and his left hand was taking all the strain and cutting badly. He looked back at the coils of line, and they were fitting smoothly. Just then, the fish jumped, making a great bursting of the ocean and then a heavy fall. Then he jumped again and again, and the boat was going fast, although the line was still racing out, and the old man was raising the strain to breaking point, and raising it to breaking point again and again. He had been put down tight onto the bow, and his face was in the cut slice of dovin, and he could not move. This is what we waited for, he thought. So now, let's take it. Make him pay for the line, he thought. Make him pay for it. He could not see the fish's jumps, but only heard the breaking of the ocean, and the heavy splash as he fell. The speed of the line was cutting his hands badly, but he had always known this would happen, and he tries to keep the cutting across the callous part and not let the line slip into the palm nor cut the fingers. If the boy was here, he would wet the coils of line, he thought. Yes, if the boy were here, if the boy were here. The line went out and out and out, but it was slowing now, and he was making the fish earn each inch of it. Now he got his head up from the wood and out of the slice of fish that his cheek had crushed. Then he was on his knees, and then he rose slowly to his feet. He was sitting lying, but more slowly all the time. He worked back to where he could feel with his foot the coils of line that he could not see. There was plenty of line still, and now the fish has to pull the friction of all that new line through the water. Thank you for watching. This is the end of part 12, to be continued in part 13. If you like this story, please like, share, and subscribe. See you then.